Welcome to this, an ArseBrose Rantcast, the final ArseBrose Rantcast of the year before it all gets chopped up and changed next year. And what a fucking weird, COVID-y, bullshit, fucking difficult to watch season it has been. And 14 FA Cups, we can sit here and we can do what everyone else has done and wax lyrical about the 14 FA Cups. But we're here to talk about the season. We're here to talk about the Premier League season. And more than that, we're here to have a look at the statistics that we've gathered over the course of the year. So for those of us who regularly follow us on the ArseBrose Rantcast, the whole way back to when it was ArseBros OG and it was just me and Toby back in the day, we have always done the 3-2-1s and the 1-2-3s. So that's every single game. 3 points awarded to the best player, 2 points to the second best player, and 1 point to the third best player. And where we differ a lot of other people is we also give shit cunt points. So 1 point to the third most shit cunt, 2 points to the second most shit cunt, and 1 point to the shittest cunt. And this year, it's all been collated. It's all been put into the spreadsheet. We would have been out a week earlier, except someone deleted the entire spreadsheet and had to go back through 12 months of instant messenger group to find the data and entered it in, and it only took 3 days. But it's all in there, and it's really, really interesting. And what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of go through it, chat about the interesting points, and drill down into the data, because quite frankly, guys, everyone has opinions, but it's not until we actually look at what we said and what we did across the entire year that our opinions, our biases, our confirmations all become apparent. And there's some really, really interesting stuff in here, and we're going to get stuck into it. We're going to kick off with just some little overviews and some little bits and pieces of chat. And as always, I'm joined by my fantastic brothers in Arse. We're like a fucked up Dire Straits song, but so, I don't know. I just started thinking about Brothers in Arms. Did anyone ever make that connection before? Because I only just made that connection right then when I said it.
Well, you're an idiot if there was no correlation between that and the name.
Like Brothers in Arse. Well, Toby, you piped up. So how are you, mate?
Good on you, champ.
Thanks, champ.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, good win on Sunday. So it made the world a little bit less shit for us Victorians.
It was. And you know, Toby and I are in now the most draconian of lockdowns that have ever existed. So in Melbourne now we have a curfew where we're not allowed outside of our houses by 8 p.m. and we're locked in until 5 a.m. So we weren't even able to fucking do what we usually do, which is go and fucking get drunk, get stoned, fucking for me to smoke all of Toby's weed in his house and throw it all over the floor and get super drunk like we do most years. So instead we had to fucking have breakfast and do it over Zoom, and it was bullshit. But I did get to talk to one of my other main men, Manny Riz, Man Dog, the Jens fucking poet, layman cunt. How are you, champion?
I'm good. Went to the gym this morning, bro. I feel great. First time in 5 months, bro. It was amazing.
Mate, you're a shrinking violet. Look at you. Just wasting away. You're all skin and bone.
Actually, I've maintained every ounce of fucking muscle during lockdown, bro. I've maintained it all, bro.
Me too.
I feel great.
I'm just rocking
There's
it.
nothing there, bro.
Just rocking it, mate. Massive. Scunny Mike, how are you, mate? You've sort of made your sentiments clear that you're relieved for the end of the season. You're relieved for this to be maybe one of the last podcasts that you do for 6 or 7 weeks.
Yep. It's finally over, champion. So I've had enough. I've had enough, mate. It's been shit. Sorry, I had to join in on that.
It's all about the champions. And the superstar himself, the newly crowned prince of podcasting, from rags to riches story. He's the Jamie Vardy of podcasting, Nobody wanted him. He came in off the bench for an average team, and now he's risen to the heights of now one of the soon to be started but named same old Arsenal USA podcast. Ryan, mate, you got to be happy. You're like Super Ted.
He's more the Rebecca Vardy of podcasting.
You're on mute, you fucking donut.
Yeah, no, she's a little bit uglier than Jamie, but whatever. I'll take what I could get. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, I bet you would take what you could get.
Yeah, it's exciting, but I just feel like the big asshole. Like you get an invitation in the mail. It says dress up party. I dress up, and then I'm the asshole. Everyone's wearing suits. I'm the one that dresses a fucking clown. So fuck me, right? But
we just don't wear Arsenal paraphernalia on the.
Well, I was really talking about the tie, but yeah, I guess the Arsenal fucking kit didn't do me any justice either. But thank God the fucking season's over.
Who uses the mail anymore? How long was you waiting for that?
With quarantine going, the mail is slowly coming back into circulation.
What did it come by? Carrier pigeon.
I'm not that old.
All right, boys. Manny, let's kick it off with you. The season has finished. It's complete. It's panned out for many of us in the positions that we predicted. I know that you, me, Dan, and Scunny all predicted that we wouldn't get into the top 6, that we wouldn't get into the Europa positions through the Premier League. And there seems to be a kind of strange narrative now that we've won silverware throughout a lot of the Arsenal fan base, that all of a sudden the green shoots have risen through the dewy ground, and what was there before didn't exist, and people seem to have forgotten that we've finished 8th and that on the last day of the season we were sitting in 10th. Without being, massively negative, it's what we deserved.
Mm-hmm. What else? But the league table doesn't lie, bro. We were terrible. We were terrible in the league. All right. I mean, so technically we didn't finish in the European spaces, so we were right about that. And I echoed the sentiments of Dan when he was saying that, you know what, if we're going to get into Europe, I'd rather we win a silverware. Rather we win silverware attached to it, because obviously it means more. And we did just that. But in the league itself, we were abysmal. We were abysmal in everything. I mean, 13th in the league in terms of chances created, conceding endless amounts of goals, just terrible. And I'm so happy that it's over, to be honest with you.
Scunny, there's no doubt that the performances got better. However, the results really stayed as indifferent as what they had been prior to Arteta coming in and COVID. It was very much a roundabout whirly-bird of a season. Are you kind of on the train that a lot of the fans are, that there's green shoots everywhere and staring into the future and thinking that these guys somehow had turned a corner under Arteta? Or are you still of the opinion that it is what it is, it was quite an average team, and the winning of silverware is just a nice cherry on top of a shit cake?
Yeah, I'm probably the second in that. It's nice to have a bit of silverware for a crap season. The team, it is what it is. There's no denying it. It's like Manny said, the league don't lie.
Tobes, mate, you much like we have decided that you would prefer to ram your head deep into the earth and listen to no opinions, no transfers, no nothing until the season starts next year. Is your level of relief to be able to get a break from this merry-go-round of Arsenal? Is it palpable, your relief, or do you think, like many of us, we're going to talk a big game and within a week every one of us is going to be looking on every article, on every bullshit thing that we can find?
I lasted about 34 seconds after proclaiming that I was never going to click on any fucking clickbait to do with transfers whatsoever, and then had to admit it in our message group. So I was like, nah, fuck that. I don't do clickbait. I'm smarter than the rest of the pricks. I don't jump to, the way modern journalism actually works, which is all advertising and sensationalized headlines. and something popped up, and I went, "Oh!" and I clicked on it, and I like had to scorn myself immediately. But who gives a fuck? Like I've kind of ended the season on more of an optimistic high. In the lovely words of Max, paying out Big Steve, I've got a horn for the kids. So,
No, Steve has a hard on for the kids, and that.
Okay, well, yeah, I might have changed it a bit, but I'm full with Project Youth, and I'm just happy that we've got a coach that has affected the team in a positive way beyond the sum of its parts, if you know what I mean. So I'm just happy. Like the season was shit, broken up, 3 different managers, sometimes playing above ourselves, sometimes playing
was very
far
segmented.
below
Was very
ourselves.
segmented, wasn't it? The season
for sure,
It was...
for sure. But yeah, I'm not unhappy. Like whatever fucking analogy you were making about fucking saplings coming up through the dew, or what the fuck ever you were trying to sound intelligent with. I certainly think there are the beginnings of some spring for Arsenal. At least we got something to build on now. So, obviously we've got to get rid of some players if we can. But there's something there. There's something there. So I'm less miserable than you cunts. For once.
Brian,
miserable.
I'm
not miserable. How dare you?
None of us are miserable.
Miserable.
I don't think any of us are miserable. I think that we try and look through the haze and the hysteria on the ArseBros, and we generally try and.
Nah, it's like Max. It's not misery, bro. Right? It's realness. It's not misery. All right. It's just realness, man. We were terrible this season, but that doesn't mean we haven't seen the positives, bro.
Yeah.
Ryan, Mikel Arteta, are you going to shag him? Are you going to date him? Or are you going to marry him? Is he your forever ever? Are you just happy dipping the tip in him, or like are you gonna give it some time and take him on a couple of dates?
All right, so I didn't think you were gonna ask this question, but for some reason I've thought this through like multiple times. So my plan is take him on a nice little date to maybe like a TGI Fridays, Ruby Tuesdays. I don't know if you guys.
Do you think Mikel's gonna like?
Do
you think Mikel's gonna like?
Do
you think Mikel Arteta's gonna like fucking
TGI
hot wings
Fridays.
and bad cocktails?
For fuck's sake.
We're gonna get we're gonna get the unlimited apps on TGI Fridays. We're gonna get fucking wasted. I'm gonna take him with my parents, see what my parents say, and then if all's good, man, I'm fucking. This is my ball slapping his ass.
Ryan, you're such a cheap bastard.
That's it.
So Ryan, again,
Hold on,
failed.
Hold on, Max. TGI Fridays of all the possible.
They have unlimited apps.
Hold on, wait. This is a manager who plucked us from obscurity and has given us silverware, and the first place you take him is TGI Fridays.
I'd be thinking I'd take.
Look it up for cheap. That's all it is. I'm not like
thinking I'd take Mikel out for like a nice French, but maybe. I mean, you wouldn't want to take him out for tapas, because he's Spanish. Tapas. See what I did there? Right. You maybe wouldn't want to take him out there because you've never taken an Italian out for Italian. You never take a Spaniard out for Spanish. But TGI fucking Fridays, mate.
Listen, I'm wearing a fucking football kit with a goddamn tie. Where do you think I'm going to do any better than TGI
mate,
Fridays?
How you ever got a fucking run on one of the big, most successful podcasts? You must have fucking paid someone, greased someone's fucking palms.
You took them to Five Guys.
No, I got Five Guys, but
not the first time Ryan's gone to Five Guys before, mate. Trust me.
I got Ryan, you couldn't believe.
As always, Ryan, you failed to actually answer the crux of the question and just taken it to a really homoerotic level. So we're just going to move past you for the time being in really true Arse Brothers.
Bro, you set him up for that, bro.
I had
to. You always set him up for the gay shit, bro. You always do it. Every podcast, you go back to every podcast. Every time it comes to Ryan, he's got to set him up with some homo stuff. Every time. And Ryan's
like a catfish, right? Catfish swallow the hook. right? So when you catch a catfish, you always have to kill it because a catfish, it doesn't just take the bait, it swallows the hook and it ends up in its intestines. Ryan is a dick catfish.
Man.
He takes the whole dick as far down as he can get it into his fucking gut.
Ryan wishes he experimented in high school, bro. You missed the
Ryan did fucking experiment in high school. I guarantee you.
you.
I guarantee you. The man knows too much about dicks. So moving past Ryan, now we've checked off most of the things. If you're playing ArseBrose Bingo, Ryan making a dick joke, that's ArseBrose Bingo. Me talking about shitting myself, that's ArseBrose Bingo. Then we will get to a either semi-racist or full-on racist comment. That's Manny checked off for ArseBrose Bingo. And also the most subtle part of ArseBrose Bingo is when you kind of watch Scunny Mike stare off to the left of his screen because they either watching the F1 or playing a game while he's podcasting on one of his multiple screens. You're on mute, you fucking
I'm on mute. I'm not playing any games. I'm not watching the F1. I mute it to try and be that, you know what I mean? Because I'm laughing so much. I don't want to hear you come across as I'm laughing. Fuck off.
Don't give him that much credit, Scunny.
Good times, boys. Good times. Anyway, into the matter, because this is the award show. That is the ArseBrose award show. And the really interesting thing about how I've done it this year, so Mike wasn't part of it this year. Mike's going to be part of it next year. So we've just got the four of us. So all of the points for me, all of the points for Toby, all of the points for Ryan, all of the points for Blackzilla have all been collated. And what we've come out with is a combined Arsenal Players of the Year, top 3 players of the year, a combined Arsenal Shit-Arses of the year. But also we're going to drill down into each one of us because there were some differences between us across the board, particularly when it came to Ryan and Manny. So, I mean, basically, I don't know who copied who. I'm going to go with Ryan copying fucking Manny for the entire year because you two cunts were like fucking identical. Toby and I had some similarities, but nothing on the level of these two fucking interracial homos, no doubt. So, without any further ado, and I've intentionally not told the guys as well who their players of the year were. So I figured we'd start it like this to start with. We'd sort of go around the room and ask some of the guys as briefly as what they could, who they thought just their number one is, who they think that their number one is, and who they think that their negative number one is. As in their sorry, I fucked that up. Fucking jargon shit brain. Who their player of the year is and who their shit cunt of the year is. So, Manny, I am going to start with you. Who do you think your best player of the year was, and who do you think your worst player of the year was? Don't think too much about it because we'll drill it down.
Well, I hated everybody at some point this season, so this is a tough one.
And that is actually reflected heavily in your scores because a lot of your both positive and large negative points.
Of course. So I'm gonna go with Leno. And if Ozil is not at my bottom, then there's a problem.
Ryan, the $1 million man, the legend of Arsenal podcasting himself. Now, considering you essentially sucked Manny's dick for the entire fucking season and copied all of his scores, are you thinking that you and brother Manny have both had the same, or do you think differently for your man of the year and your shit-arse of the year?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, dickhead.
Fucking shit. All right. I don't want to say I'll be upset because that'll mean I have an agenda, but fucking hell, Xhaka is definitely my bottom. My top, I would have to say, I don't know. It'd probably be Aubameyang. Leno. Oh yeah, last year probably would have been Ozil. I would say either Leno or Aubameyang, but I'll probably. I mean, we'd be relegated if it was for Aubameyang, so I'll say Aubameyang. Or Leno.
Yeah, look, very, very, very interesting. Toby, who do you believe that your number one man of the year was and your number one shit-arse of the year was?
It's hard to tell with me. Probably someone young and up and coming. Like maybe a Saka or a Tierney or something. Aubameyang's
Tierney.
but he didn't play. He didn't play for a lot of the year. Although he wouldn't have got. Let me finish. He wouldn't have got a lot of negative points because, so even if he didn't play that much, he wouldn't got a lot of negative points.
So
anyway,
we've broken this down. We're also we've collated the points for positives and negatives, and then after that, I'm going to talk about
collated or collated.
Whichever fucking word makes fucking sense, you cunt.
Anyway, I couldn't resist myself. I'm sorry.
Toby, I've had a few drinks, and seen a few things.
Yeah.
Toby and I are in isolation, and we've been watching a lot of Trailer Park Boys. So there might be a lot of references that people don't understand that are Trailer Park Boys related. But had a few drinks, seen a few things. Toby, who do you think your bottom player was?
Mistakes wise, maybe like a David Luiz or something like that. Someone, if I'm going down the Ryan path, someone that I don't like very much, like a Guendouzi or something like that, could be.
Whoa, easy with the Guendouzi. Whoa.
I meant like you and Xhaka. Right.
And Scunny, even though you weren't involved in this, who do you want to throw out there for your best player of the year and your worst player of the year? Who is your man of the year and who is your shit cunt of the year?
My player of the year, it's a tough one for me because it has to be Leno or Aubameyang. But because Leno was injured after straight after lockdown,
Leno, the player that no one wants now because came in for a couple.
Yeah, because there's a shiny new toy in Martinez.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The chicken sandwich himself.
Yep. Red hands.
And who do you think?
It'd have to be either Leno or Aubameyang, but I'd have to say Aubameyang just because of the goals he's scored this season. It's kept us in the running of where we are now, even though it was such a shit season.
And who would your bottom player of the year be?
I don't care if he had a good run at the end. I'm really not interested in all that shit because he's messed up so many times before. I think everybody knows what I'm going to say. So,
Xhaka or Mustafi?
Mustafi.
Actually, the numbers for Mustafi are very moderate. We'll go through.
Yeah, he had a good run at the end towards the end of the season after lockdown and everything. And when it first came back, he had a good run. But he's still a shit cunt, so.
Well, guys, so like I said, we'll just very quickly run through who our best and worst players were. And the way I've done this is I haven't put plus points, minus points for totals. I just did the 3 people who received the most amount of points from each of us, most amount of positive points, and then 3 people who received the most amount of negative points. So for me, man of the year was Aubameyang. Runner-up was Saka. And third place was Ceballos. For Toby, it was Saka, man of the year, Aubameyang in second place, and Ceballos in third place. For Manny, it was Aubameyang in first place, Ceballos in second place, and Leno in third place. And for Ryan, as if he had copied Manny's homework, and this I find particularly interesting. Aubameyang first, Ceballos second, and his German bum chum could only come in at third. Only come in at third, Ryan.
Sorry.
I would have thought more. When it comes to negative players, and there is some interesting data here, the only person who had Mesut Ozil in their -3 was me. And apparently I had a massive fucking problem with him for the year because I negative him heavily at almost double the rate anyone else in the room did. At almost double the rate. So what you might have found there is that I regularly gave him -3s and some of you guys regularly gave him -1. So mine just compounded at a massive rate. So for me, coming in as the shittest cunt of the year for me was Granit Xhaka. The second most shit cunt, I had Nicola Pepe who I really went after in a lot of games as well. And then Mesut Ozil as my -1. Toby had David Luiz, his -3. Also, I gave very few negative points to David Luiz, which is weird. Toby had David Luiz as his -3, his shit cunt of the year. He had Matteo Guendouzi at his -2 and went after him considerably harder than everyone else in the room for his -2. His -1 was, oh, captain, my captain, Granit Xhaka. Manny, -3, shit cunt of the year, went to Granit Xhaka. -2 for Manny went to Hector Bellerin, with -1 for Manny going to David Luiz. And surprise, fucking prize,
my God.
Manny's homework again. The stench of Manny's dick, I can smell it through my microphone coming from your fucking mouth.
I bet you I could tell you what color panties Manny's wearing, but
Manny don't wear pants. Manny don't wear
pants. See? Max knows too. All right, there we go.
So, combined, and remember, so when we start talking about the combined scores, this is the actual 3-2-1s and 1-2-3s for the year. And what was different with what we were talking about before was that wasn't taking into account positive and negative points. And what we're going to do here is we're going to break down each player and we're going to go around and we're going to talk about that player one at a time. So.
Wait, are literally the same minuses as Manny too?
Huh?
I had the same minuses.
It's strange. It's strangely close. It's like you read his shit and then just fucking copied it because you don't have an opinion. But you're big time now, so you can do what you want. You can steal everyone's fucking homework. You're the $1 million man. We can repair him. Anyway, so into the actual the award ceremony, and I don't know, like, should we get Ricky Gervais up to start talking about things? I don't fucking know. But so, like I said, the difference here is that this is both positive points and negative points combined. So there are players, and we will go through this when we talk about the players. We go through each one of these players. I'll talk about how they fared amongst us and how we our biases came out. But without any further ado, the man of the year, the player of the year, which surprised me because I thought that it was going to be someone different. I thought it was going to be one of two people. And one of those two people did not make it into the top 3. But our man of the year goes to Bukayo Saka. Scunny, Bukayo Saka, man of the year. He ends up with an overall score for us of positive points 68, negative points 15. Very, very low in the negative points. And he accrued the vast majority of those negative points in the last 6 months in the last 6 weeks after we came back from COVID, when he was kind of blowing out of his ass a little bit. Scunny, Bukayo Saka, a no doubt a gem that we have uncovered and we have now locked down. Integral to the future of Arsenal, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I can see why he's got all them points, because before the lockdown and everything else, it's, he was sublime, wasn't he? Him and Martinelli, I think, I reckon it would have been a toss-up between them two if Martinelli stayed fit.
Yeah.
Because I know Martinelli would have been in a lot of my top scores during this whole season, especially if he stayed, if he stayed fit and came back after lockdown fighting fit. It would have been
no
good.
doubt. And funnily enough, Mike, in the points per game ratio, Martinelli does incredibly well. And that's going to be something interesting when we go into it later, because essentially, if you play more games under the setup that the ArseBros do, you both stand the chance to make more positive points, but also make more negative points on top of it. Manny, Bukayo Saka, I was one who, when all the hype train started off with him, what was his first run where he really excited everyone? Does anyone remember who that was against?
It started against Frankfurt.
I think that might have been it. The game where he came in and everyone was losing it.
Yeah,
and I remember going down to yellow ribbons and saying,
one of the only players to turn up against Olympiacos as well.
Yeah, and I was like, pump the brakes for everyone. But Manny, he's come out with our man of the year with I think he was like second least amount of negative points retained as well. So not only did he come out with a huge amount of positive points, but very, very few negative points. It would lead to the idea that not only had he been an impactful player, but he had been an incredibly consistent player.
Mm-hmm. He exceeded everybody's expectations, bro. Nobody could have expected the kid to put double figures in assists, to play left back and look good doing it, to play 3 different positions and look good doing it, and to be consistent at it, to show up when everybody else was having a shit time. He was the only kid who was doing something in the team for a good period of time. You know, he's being asked to play right wing and he doesn't fully look out of place. He doesn't look that great on the right wing, but he's still productive over there. So how can you not? Like I said, he exceeded everybody's expectations at 18 years old to do what he's done consistently. Yeah, nobody could have expected that. So deserving. That's it.
Toby, you were most impressed with Bukayo Saka at wingback when he came into the team. Do you think that James Milner-esque, what do you call that? That flexibility.
I wouldn't call him Milner-esque.
No, I mean in the sense he was flexible, that he filled multiple positions for us. Do you think that endeared him to us in a season where we really struggled and we had to put a lot of square pegs in round holes?
Look, not necessarily. I think, I mean, don't forget that Saka got introduced. He got introduced in bloody Emery days, didn't he? That far back. I can't even remember because the season's gone for so long. So the reason that I think that he's got so much positive points is there's always that let's call it confirmation bias for us, because we love one of our own, anyone from the juniors, you know, anyone who's a pure, you know, Arsenal player in that regard. But he came in to an Emery system which was so flat. I don't know if you all remember, but you know, those massive spaces, sitting back and absorbing the pressure, just the body language of the players as a whole. You know, everything was always slow and cumbersome, and it felt like people weren't applying themselves the way we wanted. And we had this kid who comes in, and not only does he not fuck up because he's technically good, but he's doing all the things that us fans want to see in our players, and that's desire, aggression, commitment, all of those type of things. So I don't actually think it's anything overly special or even exciting. Not that that's a great description of our discussion, but that he has been that, you know, or scored so highly, because as fans, that's exactly what we want to see. And then the cherry on top is the fact that he just kept getting better, putting his hand up in clutch moments and actually scoring or assisting or doing whatever in big games when we performed so badly. So in a way, I don't think it is any great surprise. You know, and of course he played quite a lot of games because, as you said, he was, you know, flexible in his ability to play a number of positions. So yeah, and for me, definitely having the spell at left back and wing back really gave us some balance, particularly when we're trying to squeeze Lacazette and Aubameyang into the team and play that lopsided role on the left and having that attacking player down there. So yeah.
Rai, $1 Million Man, anything to add on that, or can we move on to flopping it out for a different player?
I mean, the only thing I will say is, I don't want to say unfortunately, or I don't want to be too negative, but I really want to see us nail down a position for him. We don't really know where he's going to play. He's played left wing back, left midfield, left forward. He's brilliant on that left side. I love him. I really want to. He signed a new contract, so in my opinion, I think he's our future, and he's like the guy. I mean, Martinelli, yeah, he's right there with him, but Saka, I think, is like the guy right now, and I think we need to almost like figure out what he's good at. Well, we kind of know what he's good at, but I really want to see him really nailed down to a position, and not necessarily I don't want to see that affect Aubameyang at all, but he needs to find his spot because, you know, him being admitted to
until we know Aubameyang is staying, until he signs the contract. I wouldn't worry about that. And
Can
think
I
about-
also counter that as well?
Yeah,
In
go
that,
for it.
in that I would say we don't need to typecast him, and not just going against what you're saying, Ryan, but we've got a left back that we should really back in Tierney,
Yeah.
who's senior to him.
Fucking
We've got Aubameyang, who can either play on the left or get pushed a little bit more centrally if we play 3 or 5 at the back. Saka could play as what we're lacking at the moment as our runner in a midfield three. There's all sorts of positions, and I don't think it's a bad thing for a young player. Not everyone is going to be an Oxlade-Chamberlain that has a manager like an Arsene Wenger and he just sort of flip-flops about everywhere. So I don't think it's a bad thing if you learn your trade in multiple positions. And now we've got him tied down to a contract. We don't actually need to back him as hard and throw him straight in the first team. If there's more experienced players in front of him, we can just pump the brakes a little bit and let him develop a little bit.
There's arguments for and arguments against Toby. I think that in terms of player development, it is important for people to start playing in the same position and start to feel comfortable in that position, start to feel comfortable in the partnerships that they have in those particular positions. So moving him from left to right and moving him, I fucking didn't bring the fucking charge of my laptop, and this is going to turn off in a minute, so I'm going to have to go and run and get it.
Oh my God.
I'm so fucking unorganized.
You're a professional.
Well, hold on, listen. In a perfect direction, I want Saka as my left midfielder. That's for sure. But the thing is, I'm upset because he hasn't.
What's the erection?
I've had many. I don't know that any of them have
people
ever been.
say in a perfect world, I say in a perfect direction. It is what it is. But I want him left midfielder. But if that's not the case, I'm a little, I don't want to say upset. I want him to play. He hasn't played the last couple games. For rightly so, because we have guys in front of him like the Pepes, the Aubameyangs. I get that.
He was blowing out of his fucking ass.
I agree, but I want him to play.
Well, I'll tell you how blowing out of his ass he was, because we applied 1 point for every start and 0.75 of a point for any sub appearance. And that's how we get the points per game when we do the ArseBrose. It's very technical. Very proud of myself that I've been able to do this with the help of YouTube. But I mean, Saka ended up playing 23.25 games for us, or essentially with the way that it works. That might not mean a lot, but that puts him in the top 3 most appeared players for Arsenal. So you're taking a 19-year-old, and he's coming out 18-year-old, he'll be 19 next year, and he's playing in the top 3 amount of games, and being asked to play in defensive positions and being moved from the left side to the right side. It's a lot of load for a young kid. Brian. Manny, can you do something?
You said it, not me. I didn't say anything.
So everybody else here just kind of understood what Max was talking about, and you're over there giggling like a schoolgirl.
I was laughing at him. I was laughing at his
I know you were laughing at him. But
Max said load, and then I saw Ryan just giggling like a little bitch.
This dude's
the opportunity to be a homo.
Man, this dude giggled like we would be giggling when we were in 12, 13, and we're learning about the human reproductive organs.
Ryan, never grow up, buddy. Just go with
Never
it.
change. Never change.
Yeah, but
Call me Peter Pan.
No, hold on, but there's a problem with that, man. We're talking about an 18-year-old and loads, and this guy's finding it funny.
You guys don't find that funny? Yeah.
No.
Well, fuck me then. All right, fine. Oh.
All right. Consider the audio version of this, boys.
Oh,
What?
never.
How is the audio version any different from the visual? No one's put up a fucking slide, Toby.
Because it's even more confusing and less to do with football.
Oh, no.
Anyway,
It's just why change? Why change a good thing? So Saka, guys, just if you were interested, so Toby and I both gave Saka 20 points positive. Ryan gave him 13 15 points positive, and Manny gave him the least amount of positive points over the course of the year with 13. We're all very similar on the negative numbers. I gave him -3. Toby gave him -5. Ryan -4, and Manny -3. Which brings us into our number 2, our second player of the year. Now, when I was collating the statistics, I actually picked the 3 players who I thought would appear. And only, well, definitely this player wasn't in it. As I went back through, because don't forget, I did fuck up and I did delete the entire spreadsheet. What I actually had to do was go back through the messenger group that we have on Facebook back to August 2019 and actually go through and bang everything in. So I actually read all of the fucking comments, including the thesis that Toby writes after every fucking game. It is not okay to try and read 500 words in a column, this fucking thing, that you have to scroll down for so long that Facebook has to think about what you fucking said, Toby.
Whose fault is that, Max? Who deleted the fucking numbers?
Exactly.
Anyway, as I went back and
because your laptop's fucked and the fan probably kicks in while you're doing it, the issue isn't my magnificent description of the game and analysis of what I've said.
Points. There's a whole nother fucking group to chat, and you're like, "This is what I think." Cunt. Anyway, as I went back through it, it became apparent with this particular player that my perception was that he had played quite well towards the end, but we had all regularly positived him throughout the entire season, and a lot of the time positive ones. Now, I don't know whether that's a commentary on the fact that we sometimes we struggled with Arsenal to find good players, so we looked at people who may have been a little bit prettier on the ball. But the most super interesting, coming in at 2 points, so the second best player for Arsenal for the season, Danny Ceballos, second best player of the season. Now, he appears as my third best player of the season, Toby's third best player of the season, Ryan's second best player of the season, and Manny's second best player of the season. So it is without any question or without any doubt that he was, in fact, our second best player of the season. And Manny, I see you sort of making a strange face. I wonder if that's a face of thought or if that's a face of confusion because you don't think that he would have been in your top numbers.
I wouldn't have assumed so, but before I even go into it, have you got your charger yet?
No, I'm gonna go in. I've got like 10%.
Go get it. I'm gonna be talking by the time you come back anyway. Go get it.
It don't take 2 minutes. Wait, fucking what computer does what screen? I'm on Victoria's architecture. Nope. Chat. That's not it. How do I just make myself fuck off?
Go to the bottom. Go to the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, he's fucking gone. But you know what? I am surprised that he's on there because really I would assume it would be for like his final, month and a half as opposed to, throughout the season. That kind of shocks me because there was a period where he sucked. And
he only really had 2 or 3 games where he was actually really good.
Yeah. There was a period where he sucked and I negatived him quite a bit because he sucked. And I thought he was weak and I thought he was, a ballerina just spinning around all the fucking time. But I'm guessing it's when Arteta came in that it kicked in and the positivity really came in because under Emery, he was shocking. So I am kind of, I am shocked that he's in there. Is he deserving of that position? For the last month and a half, sure. But throughout the season, I'm not too sure. So that is surprising for me.
It's not been, but from what I've seen and stuff like that, and from I'm sure there's other people probably would agree with me there. He hasn't been the worst player on the pitch. He's always been quite consistent in what he does. I wouldn't say I'd agree with you in saying he hasn't been the best player, but he's always, like I say, he's been consistent. He has not been the worst player on the pitch.
No, he hasn't. And some of the attributes that he's actually, shown, and some of the attributes that's come to the fore with him is, you look at his numbers stat wise in terms of, tackles, interceptions, distance covered, all of that since we've come back from lockdown. They're at the top, and they're at the top for a reason. So initially when he came in, everybody thought he was going to be, Santi Cazorla 2.0. And then he's turned out to be, not only can he do the Santi thing, but he can do what we expected Torreira to do. And that he can put his body on the line if he needs to. And him being press resistant and him being able to, beat two players with a drop of a shoulder and pop a pass off, it makes him different to all the midfielders that we have currently. But I still don't think that will make him second overall of the season. That is surprising to me, but
we can
for him, I guess.
We can go through the positives, the negatives. I can tell you that overall he received more positive points from all of us than Bukayo Saka combined. He received more positive points. He also received more negative points, which put him into second. Scully, do you find it interesting, or do you find it kind of poignant that Ceballos actually picked up positive points for us throughout the entire season? As I went through it, he didn't pick it up in lumps and bumps. He actually consistently picked up points throughout the entire season at an average of just shy of 3 points positive average per game.
Well, no, because this is what I've just saying to Manny as you was getting your laptop charger. I was just saying he's been consistent. He's not been the best player on the pitch. He's not been the worst player on the pitch. He has been consistent, and I think that's why he's picked up the points. Because as I saw you lot doing it, I was doing it myself, in my own little head, and just thinking like, oh yeah, I'd agree with that. And when I started watching games, and when me and you was talking and doing obviously doing this preview show for next season, I sort of like, right, I'll start getting into it and start looking myself and going over the games and stuff. And so I have watched when I've been doing it and when I've been gone to games as well before lockdown. You do see certain players, they're not the best, like I said, they're not the best player on the pitch, but they are consistent. They're not really doing anything wrong. They're putting in a shift, but they're not really doing anything wrong or doing anything special. And I think that's why he's picked up the points, because he's not doing anything wrong. You see, when you see somebody like making mistakes like David Luiz, who made he's done 5 penalties, give away 5 penalties this year. You see them mistakes quite clearly. Yeah, with Xhaka, he gets a lot of yellow cards. You see them mistakes. With Mustafi, he slides on his ass. You see that mistake, and he's also a cunt. So you see them sort of mistakes. But I think after the lockdown, he's probably picked up the more points after the lockdown, because he's been that, he's stepped up. He's been that better player.
He's almost saved us as well, because we've lost Torreira to injury. We lost Guendouzi because he's a little cunt. We've lost, and we effectively don't have central midfield replacements. So you got Willock, who's young, AMN, who's not preferred there. You don't actually have a lot of options. And I feel like with Ceballos, he started off pretty hot. Do you remember that Burnley game when we all had a boner? That's for you, Ryan. And then, everything sort of trailed off in the middle because everyone was shit and we were trying to find our way. And at the end, all of a sudden,
we trailed off in the middle. You think that it trailed off in the middle, but the data, when I went through it, it didn't trail off in the middle for Ceballos. He continued to pick up points. So one of the parameters
because what Scunny was saying was because he was consistent. So he wasn't spectacular, but he didn't fuck up in terms of negative.
We, in fact, had a podcast, Toby, which was basically entitled, What is Ceballos? And this wasn't even that long ago. This was maybe the first month back from lockdown. The argument was, what is Ceballos? I remember
it clearly. And in my pure genius, I said, don't offer him a new contract unless
said
it's
worth
pretty
the money.
unless it's pretty low. I think I was at the point of, you know, a 30 million, and if it was any more than that, then forget it, because of that very reason. What is he? But I mean, I think there's a pretty simple explanation to that, and the last sort of 10% of his ability through his desire is down to the coaching, and that's all on Arteta. So that's all I've got to say about that.
Ryan, Danny Ceballos, I wonder if the reason why so many people have started to fall in love with him towards the end is because of those parallels with Santi. When Manny and I spoke on our FA Cup review, we spoke about the fact that Ceballos doesn't move quickly, but the ball does. And that reminds me a lot of Santi Cazorla, that he didn't move quickly, but the ball does, and the football IQ is so high. Have you come full circle now and are ready to say, I can make a midfield three out of this guy and he could be an important part there?
Yeah, I mean, when he first came to the team, the club and everything, I'm like, he's lonely. He's not bought in. We bring Arteta in. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about him. And I'm always just chalked. I don't know how I can't tell you my mentality doing the pluses and minuses every game, but sometimes the way I saw it, and I've said it a lot in my pluses and minuses, I do little blurbs. I don't do theses like Toby does, but I say like, look who he's playing with. He's playing with our shit cunt. I mean, I don't know he's our shit cunt, but he's our shit cunt. He just does what Xhaka does, and then he does his own thing. He's essentially, he plays for two guys, and I think I value that maybe a little more, and I see that a little more. I don't know if that's because I just think Xhaka's just shit. I don't know, but I think also
you think Xhaka is because it's a poignant part of the conversation that's coming up.
Yeah, I think he kind of clicked at the perfect time. You know, like we talked about, Guendouzi, fuck off. Injury to Torreira, you know, all these center mids that are just falling by the wayside. Ceballos realized, oh fuck, I gotta step up. And then I think at that time too, he kind of bought into Arteta's little, oh shit, he knows what he's doing. And you know, seeing him celebrate the second goal in our FA Cup, you know, really kind of brought life and really kind of bought me into. So I'm excited. I really hope we. I don't want to talk rumors, but I do hope we loan him out for another year, because I think he actually is something, and we need to hold on to him for as long as we can.
I was reading that we paid $5 million loan fee for him for the first year. We'll pay $5 million loan fee for him for the second year, but then we'll have to buy him at $20 million in the third year, which, as far as cash flow for us, is very, very important. We don't have a lot of money to spend, which means maybe backloading or backdate. They do it a lot in rugby league, where they back end contracts, where you pay more towards the end of the contract rather than the start of the contract. So I think that will be an interesting thing. Look, for me, I think Ceballos was a flash Arsenal used to be. I think Ceballos, when we look at him, he's the type of player that the thing that we understand Arsenal to be is the type of player that Ceballos is. A little bit lightweight, very technical. And I think once he came into the team and he got his grounding in the team, I think when he first started playing, and this is going to be a massive shot on Xhaka, so grab your buttholes. I think when he first started playing, he probably thought Xhaka was going to do his job. And as he stayed in the team for longer, I think he realized, oh, fuck, I've got to do this cunt's job and do my fucking job, because if I go too far forward, this totem is going to get run past in midfield. And then you look at all these people talking about Xhaka playing better. Well, I think Xhaka played better because of Ceballos, not because Xhaka was necessarily better. Xhaka went deeper and deeper and deeper, everything in front of him, and Ceballos just worked his hole off and blew out of his ass. I also think Ceballos got consistently fitter as the season went on. Early on, even when we came back from lockdown, he was putting in 30-minute performances, 40-minute performances. I don't think he's ever had to work that hard in his fucking life, and that's because of that massive Swiss fucking dildo, Granit Xhaka. But we'll get to that fucking cunt later on.
No, Max, I reckon you're playing the fucking cheap likes there.
I'm not
playing
cheap likes.
You are. You're just going on the popular opinion with the Xhaka bashing. I agree with an element of what you're saying. The bit I agree more is his increased fitness and his increased desire. not the fact that Xhaka was any different.
I
So,
think
anyway, that's my opinion.
Look, you tell me, Toby, if he's standing fucking high up on the pitch expecting this cunt to fucking run, and then this cunt gets fucking run past, hacks someone down, makes a fucking
It's a
mistake.
partnership. Xhaka's always the one that hangs back. I'm not saying Xhaka isn't flawed. You've just gone some cheap likes. That's all.
Toby, I'm the one who on Twitter the other day, when questioned about Granit Xhaka and my dislike for Granit Xhaka, I said, anyone who is saying that Granit Xhaka is great is wrong. And anyone who is saying that Granit Xhaka is a waste of space is wrong. He's a 7 out of 10 player who in the last 5 weeks played to his level, which was 7 out of 10.
Not arguing with that. Not arguing with that. That was my whole point.
Fuck that.
That was my whole point.
7 out of 10, motherfucker. Do you know what Granit Xhaka is? Granit Xhaka is when you're fucking like, you've dumped pingers and you're in a nightclub, right? And there's lights and you're like gacked as shit and you're dancing with this girl and you think that she's fucking hot. And because you're all gacked up on pingers, you're like, I love this girl. I'm going to take her home. I'm going to fucking marry her. Then you get her outside, but it's like 5 a.m. and the sun's coming up and you get a glimpse of her. And you look across and you're like, you're fucking ugly. But I'm too. I'm not finished. You go, you're fucking ugly, but I'm too gacked not to fuck you. So I'm going to convince myself that I still like you until such a time as I have emptied a load on your tits. Fact.
So in this whole story,
no,
I was thinking the same.
Granit Xhaka is the girl, and I am the average Arsenal fan because I've danced with her in the nightclub. The Arsenal fans have played with her. She's thought she's better than she was. They got her outside. She realized she wasn't that good, and then they convinced themselves that they still wanted to fuck her.
Yeah, but Max, you've just described the parts of your life, bro.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm talking about.
You describe a lot of my life too. So,
mate, I banged this Korean stripper for a while called Ho Soo. I think her name was Naomi. Her stripper name was Naomi. Anyway, long story short, the Korean strippers, they kind of have. Well, no, I've only ever been with one Korean girl, and she was a stripper. So I don't know whether it's because she was a stripper or because she was Korean. But they have a very kimchi smell to them, like a very like fermenty, like odd.
Dude, just fucking stop now. Seriously.
Yeah, please. Just move this on. You can just move this on, bro.
No edits. There's no edits anymore, motherfucker.
Like Ryan takes the bait. Like Ryan takes the fucking bait for the gay jokes. You got to stop me early because I'm going to keep going down that rabbit hole.
Cheap likes, like I said.
Points for us, guys. Ceballos, positive points from us. I gave him positive 20. Toby gave him positive 19. Ryan gave him positive 20. Manny gave him positive 20. I gave him negative 12. Toby, negative 10. Ryan, negative 5. And Manny, negative 7. So you guys actually gave him equal highest positive points and the lowest negative points. So, again, really interesting as we look out across an entire season to what we actually thought about players. And don't forget, this is, as the season was segmented, our points have followed suit. So, really interesting. So, player of the year, Bukayo Saka. Number 2 was Ceballos. Number 3, the player that every single Arsenal fan, or the vast majority of Arsenal fans, gave player of the year to, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And Toby, we will start with you. I gave him my number 1. You gave him your negative 2. He was Ryan's number 1. He was Manny's number 1. Toby, he's ended up our number 3. And that's because of the high quantity of negative points that he received. Truly a rocks and diamonds player, but maybe we've come to appreciate that the diamonds are more... Oh, excuse me, I've drunk so much rum. That the diamonds are more important than the rocks, or that the rocks become diamonds.
Yeah. The diamonds are definitely more valuable than the rocks in terms of if we're separating the two. Now, I thought you were drinking green tea and being normal, and I couldn't work out why you were being such a loud, obnoxious cunt. Now I know because Yeah. So bringing it back to the actual question, the thing with Oba, what we know and where he can be frustrating is when he has one of his games where the team's a bit off and his performance and energy levels don't match what we need out of a captain. Yeah,
Tottenham.
But
Tottenham.
Yes.
But
yes,
where the diamonds come into it, So where the diamonds come into it is the fact that he's a consistent goal scorer, even if he only smacks in, 1 in 4. That's still
Manny
quite a high ratio.
Just so anyone's wondering what Manny's doing.
You do too.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for
Toby,
Why would you interrupt him while he's talking? I'm on mute anyway.
Thinking about Spaceballs and combing the desert, and Ryan's combing his bit, and it's like, comb the desert, and Ryan's combing away. What have you found? Nothing. Then you get to Manny, it's like, we ain't found shit.
What?
I love Spaceballs, but fuck you for interrupting midway through my point.
He is Lord Helmet.
Completely fucking up the flow of the podcast again.
Comb the desert. We ain't
So
found
he is literally Lord Helmet.
He is Lord Helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, women are attracted to power and money, and I have both. But anyway. Anyway, so but with Aubameyang, his goals and the importance of the goals are obviously outweighing those performances when we need more out of him. So I think it's probably less about him and more about what we need as a captain. I still don't necessarily agree with a goal scorer as a captain. I didn't even like Henry back in the day as a captain.
True.
And the balance where he can thrive without being the be-all and end-all of our press. He still has to do his job, but I don't think he's the type of leader that can, chuck the team on his shoulder and drag them forward. So for me, when he doesn't score and he doesn't put in that energy, he's very prone to quite high negative points. But when he does score, and the FA Cup final is an amazing example of that, whereas if we don't have him, we don't win that game.
Yeah, no doubt. Scunny, you cannot carry multiple Mavericks or multiple one-dimensional players in a team. And Aubameyang is no doubt, except for a small scattering of games across the year, a one-dimensional player. As in, when he scores goals, he tends to get positive points for us. And when he doesn't have his shooting boots on, he tends to get kind of lost in the static of the game. People talk about his contract. And we spoke about his contract, and we spoke about the big money for the contract. And I spoke to Manny at the end of our FA Cup review and said that I had changed my tune and I had come to the realization that that quantity of goals and the goals that he scored in big games, which goes against the narrative that he doesn't score in big games. And are you now of the opinion as well that he's fit? He's in his 30s. He doesn't look like he's losing a lick of pace. Maybe we just give him the fucking money.
Honestly, I'm still of the same opinion as I was before. I'm not too sure about this contract at all. I'll be honest. I'm not overly convinced as I was about not giving the contract, let him see his current contract out. I'm more mixed viewed about it in some respect, but I'm still more leaning towards let's see how he gets on this season. But I just feel like we're pinning all our hopes on Aubameyang, and I just don't like that. I just don't see why Arsenal should be pinning everything on one player. Like, it's like, if we don't do it, that's it. We're going to go there, we're going to go there, we're going to get relegated. I don't know. There's talks of everything all over the place of stuff like that. It's not necessarily me saying it. But I just don't like that. I don't like pinning all our hopes on one player. We did that before with Ozil.
Yeah.
Exactly. And look how that turned out. You know, I didn't want him on that contract either. 350k for someone is absolutely ridiculous, especially of his caliber. Anyway,
Well, that's what the Aubameyang contract is. You add in all the but when you add in the bonuses, he gets a 40k goal bonus. He scores 21 to 25 goals a year. Plus, they get an appearance bonus if they play more than. I think it's more than 60 minutes. They get an appearance bonus, and I think he's done that in something like 75% of the games. I think it was Stan the Man worked it out, and he said it equated to nearly 350k a year if he continued his goal production at the same rate.
Yeah. Well,
the question is that if we sold him, the maximum amount we would get with a guy with 1 year left on his contract might be 20 million, 30 million if someone was absolutely desperate. I just don't think that you can replace the goals in the big game.
I think that's the massive issue at the minute. I just think we're pinning all our hope. That's what I mean. It's a huge issue. We've got one person scoring goals, and yet we've got Pepe who can score goals. We've got Lacazette who should be scoring goals, but he's playing a slightly different role. You know, and then we've got other. What did you say?
I said, "Fuck off, Lacazette." Seriously,
no, I'm just saying, as strikers, we've got these people who should be scoring goals, other than Aubameyang.
Yeah,
and I just don't like the fact that we're pinning everything on one player.
We have no creativity at all,
especially during the time now where we're seeing, like, I'm just going to say, for instance, Zaha. I'm not saying we should go for him at all. I'm just saying he was the asking price they were asking for at the start of this season was 80 million. They've now brought that down.
More production. I guarantee.
Oh, no. I'm not saying we should buy him. I'm just saying this is the COVID rates that we're seeing now. There's reports now that Crystal Palace are only asking 30 million for him.
Buy him.
Do you think it's?
I don't think it's true. I think it's probably more 40 million, but that's halved in 1 year. Now, I think this is down to the COVID rates. We should be really looking to our next player. We should be looking forward.
Can I say something with that, Scunny? And I agree with you in terms of the caution with doing another Ozil contract. Not that I don't think Ober's been fantastic, but I also think, and I've been saying this all year, that players play in combinations, and that Lacazette, even though I wouldn't shed much of a tear if he were to leave, but he's a finisher in that, in the goal mouth. He gets on the air.
Finishes has he finished this season?
Shut the fuck up and let me finish my fucking point. Seriously, he is not going to create it for himself. It's down to combinations. So if Over's playing on the left, you don't have a particular creative point. Lacazette tends to drop deep. If you play with more creative wingers and he's in that sort of last, he's in the box striker finishing it off, it's about combination. So if you bring it back to your discussion, Scunny, if you've got players like that, if you've got a Zaha on the market or whoever, then you can play in a different way. It's not all about Aubameyang and his goals. As much as I'd like for him to stay, there are other options. And then other players become better when other players in the team play and open up that space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look, Toby, I would agree with you on the Lacazette thing if he hadn't have just been a massive fucking shit cunt for the entire year. And to kind of buy into your point, given the opportunity of either having Lacazette or Aubameyang there, and considering the fact that we have bought Pepe, where you're talking about, well, you might need different types of wingers to play into Lacazette. I don't think that Lacazette is good enough for us to say, oh, okay, like he's our stud. He's the one.
And I wouldn't argue with that. I'm actually not arguing with that at all. If I had to choose, it'd be Aubameyang every day of the week. And if had to think of a player that we would have to keep, it would still be Aubameyang. But I'm saying, like, holding a club to ransom for a ridiculous salary is a path that we've taken before, and it's a massive risk. So if there are other players on the market, and like Scunny said, there's some COVID rates going on, and there's some pretty special players with some Premier League pedigree and end product, which Arsenal lack, then you can have a lesser striker in terms of creativity, but who can finish, that will still hit 20, 25 goals a season.
Can I just point out quick as well? Danny Ings scored over 20 goals this season. Who you know? I'm just saying. I'm not saying let's go for him, but there is caliber of players out there who are actually everyone thought they were crap, but can still hit 20 goals a season.
I think that if you played Danny Ings through the middle, who is essentially a Giroud-esque player with more goals. He has good link up, holds the ball. He maybe doesn't have the technicality or the little flicks and tricks and touches that Giroud does. But I honestly think if you swapped out Lacazette for Danny Ings this season, we probably finished 2 places higher because of how poor Lacazette was throughout the entire.
I'm just making a point, I'm just making a point of people, you don't have to have the most expensive striker to get 20 goals.
No, but you're not even talking about him.
That's what I'm saying.
You're talking about Aubameyang as a winger. Manny, you and I spoke about this recently. The modern Premier League team needs 50 goals from its front 3. That's 50 goals from a front 3. In fact, the centre forward has actually come back on goals. So we're talking about getting 15 goals from a centre forward, and we're talking about getting 25 goals from a winger, and we're talking about getting another 15 to 20 goals from another winger. Clive said on Arsenal Vision very early on this year that the space is no longer through the middle. The space is into out and out to in.
What the hell is the question?
Well, the question is that do we need to keep thinking about centre forwards as being goal scorers, or is that something that's archaic? The Ruud van Nistelrooys are dead. The Alan Shearers are dead. The space is out wide now. So if you're talking about building a front 3, you need to get 50 goals across the front 3.
You do, but then you just said that the days of the Van Nistelrooys are done. So where are you going to get 50 goals from a centre forward?
No, I'm talking about getting the 50 goals across the front 3.
Oh, you mean in total? So
in total.
So because we don't create anything.
But talk about.
Stop fucking interrupting me.
I was just going to say, talk about what we were talking about the other day about Firmino, and about how Firmino is the anchor that links and pushes the other 2 forward.
Sure, Firmino is the 4th midfielder essentially. But he can be that 4th midfielder because of the productivity they get out wide. So Firmino not scoring any goals from centre forward hasn't hindered him at all because of what he does for the team. Liverpool are made that way, right? That's how they're made. If you look at the way we are, we're still talking about a number 10 coming in order to create some of the chances that we need. So we haven't caught up with the modern way of the current trends of football. We are still behind in that respect because of some of the errors that we've made in the transfer market. So when we're talking about a centre forward who scoring 10 or 15 goals, we need more than that. When you're looking at the goals that we've put up this season, if it's not Aubameyang, it's nobody else. If it's Pepe hasn't gotten to double figures in goals. Close enough, but he hasn't. Lacazette has, but for the chances that he has had, he should be in the high teens going on 20s. Yeah. But he's been shocking. So maybe
what we're saying, Manny, maybe what you're getting at is that Aubameyang is actually more important because of the lack of goals and creativity everywhere else. More than anything, we're actually relying on him.
100%. And the thing is, Scully's point is poignant because we have done that in the past. We've done it with Van Persie, we've done it with Nasri, we've done it with Sanchez, we've done it with so we've done it, So we've done it over and over and over again. We are over reliant on one player, and then we get to a situation where we're bent over by that player, and then we're in a situation where, damn, if we lose you, especially where we are now, especially that he's got a year left, if we lose you, there is not a player in world football right now that you can get for about 30 million that can do what Aubameyang does. A player that is close to doing what Aubameyang does is Lewandowski, and he does it from the center of from a center forward position. So we're fucked in that respect, right? I don't like giving this guy a £250,000 a week contract, and I know it goes up to 350,000, but after tax, 250,000. I don't like us giving him. I don't like it. I don't like it. It frightens me because the dip hasn't happened with him yet. The dip can happen instantly. We've seen it before. So that worries me. But then if we go into our future not having tied him down, we are fucked.
Kind of damned if we do and damned if we don't. Ryan, points for Aubameyang. I gave him positive 24. Toby gave him positive 20. Ryan gave him positive 22. And Manny gave him positive 22. But Aubameyang almost featured in our highest amount of negatives. So Aubameyang was fourth for three of us in negative points. So he got negative 15 from me, negative 11 from Toby, negative 11 from Ryan, and negative 7 from Manny. Rocks and Diamonds. Ryan, we spoke about it earlier and started the conversation about Aubameyang. Is there enough there that is so good or so elite that we could not go past him, that the 30 million-ish that would be invested over the 30 years, that we couldn't invest that 30 million into someone else and hope for another return?
Yeah, I mean, we finished 8th and he tied for the Golden Boot. So I think that says something. And like we're saying with Rocks and Diamonds, I if he's not scoring, I don't think he's doing anything. I think when him off the ball is not the greatest, but he scored us multiple important goals. I could say he single-handedly won us an FA Cup. And I know Scunny had this kind of argument. He said this on Guns, and he's like, "Oh, is he world class?" I think he's world class. I really do. I think he's our only world class player. I think Leno is getting there. I mean, injuries aside, we don't know, but and I think all of you guys are right. Also, I think we're fucked either way. I don't like giving him this big of a contract, but also, what the fuck are we gonna do elsewhere? We're getting fucked with the black dough whether we like it or not. So I think our
definitely like it.
Only if it's got glitter on it, but that's not the point. I think, if we're gonna get fucked regardless, let's get some goals out of it. And I think next year he's still gonna be at par.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Spit
Wait
it.
a minute.
Spit it, Manny. Spit it.
Ryan, how the hell do you know that dildos have glitter on them?
Wait, what? What do you mean? Doesn't everything have glitter on them?
Bruv, you just said dildos with glitter on them. How do you know this?
Manny, I'm not a virgin. I've been to a sex shop before.
That's not what I'm asking. I have a you know what, bro? I ask myself questions about you more and more and more. I have a feeling this guy's got some hidden stuff, man. And
the thing that's hidden is the dildo in his ass.
He's probably sitting on it right now.
He pushed it a knuckle too far, and now he can't get it back. It's gone beyond the shelf. That would be the name of Ryan's autobiography. Ryan McMurray, Beyond the Shelf.
Jesus.
Past the point of no return.
And I put a lot of drugs in my ass, so I know where the shelf is.
There's something that we didn't want to know.
Right.
Dude, if you've got 1 tab of acid and 2 points of speed and a whole rave to get through, stick the fucking drugs in your ass. Trust me.
No, don't do that. Don't listen to this.
Trust me.
No, don't listen to him. A kid could be watching this thinking,
Toby's sitting there quietly like he's never put drugs in his ass. But trust me, that motherfucker is such a degenerate. he just has this like quiet persona where he's like, "Oh, I'm not degenerate. Who do you think taught me to put drugs in my ass? That fucker. That fucker right there on the right-hand side of your screen."
Look his charge.
It was me. Can I tell you a story? So when my second son Jack was born, there was a doctor that came in and he had to put a suppository in my wife to, I don't know, painkiller or stop something or something. And I could tell he was a bandit straight from the off, like very well dressed, like good looking cat, hair done, softly spoken, all of that stuff. And anyway, and he explained what it was and what he was about to do and where it was going. And I looked at him and I went, "Max, I'm looking at you," and I went, "Shelving." And he just looked at me with this smirk of recognition and acknowledgement, and we both had this moment of like, yeah.
Oh, never.
It's the worst podcast on television.
And my wife, who's like lying there, like in pain and everything,
with a finger up her ass.
She knew exactly where I was going and enjoyed it as well. It was one of the most beautiful moments of our birthing experience.
Toby, I've known Mel for a long time, and Mel would not be above putting something on the shelf. So, not the first time, not the last time. Guys, into our
and I'm the quiet one.
Guys, into our next.
I can't breathe.
Composure.
It's gone.
Now have a sip of this.
Oh fuck!
I keep having to mute because I'm that loud.
Oh fuck!
All right. Fuck. I swear you'd think after 2 years of this we would have found some level of professionalism. Someone said to me the other day, they're like, "Oh, ArseBrose is really good. Why isn't it bigger?" And I said, because it's for degenerates by degenerates. And to watch us is to accept that you are in fact a degenerate. So for the people in the room, shout out to all of you motherfuckers. Manny's gone. He's crying. He's crying.
This one has been especially bad though. This
when I'm on
like,
the Rumbos.
Yeah.
When I'm on the Rumbos.
Yeah.
We actually haven't had a really bad one for a while. So there's one, if anyone ever wants to go back through the history of ArseBrose, there's one that I think is, which is the one? It's about Terrera, Toby, where you and I got fucked up.
Was it our second? Was it our second one ever?
Full-blown Direction is the drunkest, most wasted fucking podcast you'll ever hear. Toby and I started off, we were doing it by ourselves on audio, and we got fucked up. And it is the most truthful understanding of how such opposite people in Toby and I can be best friends. So Toby and I are brothers, but we're best mates. And if you ever put us in a room together with a case of alcohol and a bag of drugs, the whole fucking world will come to an end. And it will always be at the hands of Toby, because he is the worst cunt that I know. Despite his if everyone just takes a more sensible approach to Arsenal. And I'm like, cunt, I've fucking seen you do horrible fucking things. Anyway, moving on as we regain our composure. So just to finalize, our man of the year was Bukayo Saka with 53 points, positive, negative. Sabai with 45 points, positive, negative. And Aubameyang with 44 points, positive, negative. And the really interesting thing about Aubameyang, just before we move on, is I gave him 24 points, minus 15. Very high negatives. He was given 20 points by Toby for minus 11, 22 points by Ryan for minus 11, 22 points by Manny for minus 7. So almost 50-50. Almost 50% of his positive points came back in negative points. We've spoken about it. The guy is a bit rocks and diamonds. And this brings us into the negative points at the hour and a half mark. It's going to be a long podcast. Just accept it. We don't give a fuck. We're having fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this one backwards because we've always done 3, 2, 1s, 1, 2, 3s. So the third shittest cunt. So not the most shit cunt, the third shittest cunt, the bronze, as you might say, for shit cunts this season. And it is a really painful bronze. And it might be a bit of a harsh bronze because of injuries and things like that. But it's very poignant at the moment because of this guy is in the transfer market. This guy is someone we could maybe make money out of. And this guy is someone who is not so old and is not so out of contract that there would be no way that we couldn't recuperate funds out of him. And that guy is Hector Bellerin. And Bellerin comes in with a negative 34 points. Let's go to Scunny first. Scunny, Hector Bellerin. We all love him. Many of us were calling for him for captain. We all understand that he's had an injury. But is it time to say goodbye to our Spanish Cockney?
Yes. I never thought I'd probably be the one to say that, to be honest, because I actually like him. But I think it is time to cash in. I just don't think he's going to cut it now after that injury. I just think that injury's ruined him massively. It looks like it's ruined his confidence. It looks like it's ruined his speed. And I just don't think he's the same player as what he was.
Where the hell is he gone?
I was about to say that.
Whatever. No, but whatever.
No, it's all right.
It's
all right. We can continue with that. Manny, do you want to go on?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Bellerin is his decline did not start out of nowhere. Do you remember the game at Crystal Palace when they were barking at him saying you're not fit to wear the shirt? That was what, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
3-4 years ago? That decline, has been gradual. Since he was in the team of the year, he's gone backwards and backwards. This is before the injury. We're talking about his pace diminishing. This is before the injury. Even with his burst in the FA Cup final, that burst wasn't reminiscent of something that I've seen before, because I remember him chasing after Pedro at the Emirates, and we saw how quick Pedro was, in the final. But Bellerin, his decline has been so bad, and he hasn't gotten anywhere near his best. My respect for Bellerin really diminished when he came out and said Sanchez wanted to win too much. That bothered me, because that's not the sort of mentality you would want somebody with the type of influence he wields to have. You wouldn't want that sort of mentality anywhere near, because if you want to win too much, isn't football about winning? And then we talk about his limitations technically, his passing, right? I listen to Arsenal Vision when they talk about his body position and the fact he gets run past so often. What game was it? I can't remember what game it was.
It's been quite a few over the time, ever since after lockdown when he started playing again.
Against City.
There is a few times where he's been ran past quite a lot.
Against City, bruv. Sterling left him for dead, and he didn't get anywhere near Sterling. I was like, oh my God, this dude has lost what made him a good footballer, because he was all pace, because he can't defend either. So it is time to cash in on Bellerin.
Yeah.
I think if he came to a point where, I want to explore another league, my friend, please do, because he's not going to get any better and he's not going to recapture his glory. I don't think so anyway.
Toby, what's Bellerin worth? Ultimately, I mean, what's he worth now at his age?
I think I said this the other day. I could be confusing things, but I would take 30 mil for him and I'd be quite happy with it.
But
and
do
then
you
I
think
would
he's
promote
worth 30?
Well, I don't know post-COVID market, because we don't know yet. It's an emerging thing, it's changing by the day. But I would say pre to that, he would be, you would have thought he was a 50, 60 million pound player, rivaling like your City fullbacks. But no, look, with everything we've just said, I think he was a guy, his X factor was his pace. All right. I don't think he was ever a particularly good defender, but he could, sort of like even back in the day, like Clichy styles, like never a good defender.
Not even back in the day. There were moments under Emery pre-ACL where he was to the byline. He's involved in the beautiful Ramsey goal. He's involved in the beautiful Aubameyang goal. Those couple of goals under Emery that like highlight Arsenal at their breakiest, sitting deep, running hard best.
I don't think it's ever been a question of his short passing. I think it's his long passing, especially as a wing back, that can come into question, especially when trying to cross it into the box.
Yeah,
but his short passing is really good.
Yeah, I mean, technically, I wouldn't say he's on par with someone like AMN. Especially with that close control and layoff and pass and move.
AMN is fucking beautiful.
Thanks, Max. Crossing is sort of give or take. He's shown glimpses, but hasn't found consistency. And I feel, like I said at the beginning of my point, I think his pace masked a lot of his deficiencies. So maybe as a player, he didn't develop as well as he could have because he could rely on that pace. So
it's interesting. It doesn't take more than losing a yard. Well, everyone's laughing because I'm interrupting Toby, but he's about to go on like another 5-minute fucking.
What? Like you would never fucking you would never.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to chip in, and I'm just saying it doesn't take more than losing a yard for a player who relied on that yard to all of a sudden become something much less.
Look, I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I think there's glimpses of him returning to something that we thought he might be. But in the same breath, if a big bid came in and you've invested all that fucking money in Suarez, which is stupid, and then you've got AMN sitting there, then there's money to be had. So if you're playing the transfer market effectively, then it wouldn't be the biggest loss in the world if he was to be sold on. And who knows, he could have a new lease of life, go back to Spain, go try a slower league like Italy or something like that, and excel.
Look, 25 points positive, minus 59 points for an overall score of minus 34. I gave him positive 5. Toby gave him positive 8. Ryan was positive 6. Manny was positive 6. So across the board, we're really close. Negative points, minus 7. Negative points from me, minus 7. From Toby, negative 15. From Ryan, negative 20. From Manny, negative 17. It's not good reading for Hector Bellerin. We can put the obviously the conversation about the injury in there as well, and there is an injury and there is a betting period. But plenty of time had passed between the injury and him coming back into the team, COVID and him reappearing, and he never really did a massive amount. In the words of Metallica, sad but true. I think Hector's on his way out. Now, our negative 2s were difficult, right? So I had to remove some people from our negatives because I didn't believe that it was fair because of the games that they played, right? So because some of these guys only played a couple of games and they were quite crap. So I removed Emile Smith-Rowe because in his 2 games for Arsenal, he played really fucking badly. I removed Eddie Nketiah. Now, I removed Eddie Nketiah because he didn't play enough games, wasn't with us for enough of the season, and was asked to do a really unrewarding role. And I removed Holding as well. So who was also in the negatives with Holding. So I removed him because I didn't think it was fair again that he had come back and played not as many games, whereas Bellerin had played games before and after. This is a really interesting one because it brings us into the conversation about Willian. And I saw a thing, Alex, great friend of mine, fantastic channel. If you guys haven't followed it, Cannon Fodder TV, I'm on there. When it's not double daylight savings, I'm on there fairly regularly. But Alex put up a tweet the other day saying, does Willian improve us? And my response to it was, Well, he's better than Reece Nelson. And Reece Nelson actually ended up with our -2. Now, you would think it's unfair because you would say he didn't play enough games. But Reece Nelson, as far as substitute appearances and games in multiple competitions, actually played plenty of games. Reece Nelson came in with a score of -40, which is a massive. It's big. So 5 points positive, -45 for an overall score of -40. Manny Riz, we'll throw it to you first. So I know, Steve Warrington, Big Steve was really, really pushing Nelson at the start of the year, and you and I were less confident that he would be an integral player. He's a very solid player. He's a very decent player. But he comes in with negative points for us and ends up actually taking out our second worst player of the year. Does that not indicate that we are desperate to bring in someone who can be either sidekick to Pepe, whether that be an older player who's going to play second fiddle, or whether we bring someone in who's actually going to push Pepe?
No to Willian. No. I thought we were done with this nonsense of going for cast-offs from other teams. No fucking Willian. In order to keep somebody like Pepe sweet, you get somebody who can compete with him. You get somebody who has an upward trajectory as well as, Pepe does. The only way is up. Willian, his trajectory is going down. His productivity will go down. We don't need another Willian. No.
What makes you say that? What makes you say
What?
that? I'm not saying I want Willian, but what makes you say his productivity is going down?
Dude.
He was Chelsea's probably second best player, maybe on par with Pulisic this season after COVID.
Can we talk about Nelson?
Hold on. Let me. We'll get to Nelson, but let me answer what Ryan's saying. Because Ryan, just like all of the other cast-offs that we've got from other teams, at 31 years old, you are asking him to be as productive. You are asking him to be as consistent as he's been. If you look at him from a statistical standpoint, he is not as great as people make him out to be. I don't see it with if you're talking Shakhtar Donetsk, Willian. Oh, it got 100%. If you're talking 26-year-old, 25-year-old Willian, sure. But at 31 years old, to be tying down another 31-year-old on a big contract, no, we've made that mistake already. With Reece Nelson doesn't push Pepe in any way. Reece Nelson, I don't see it. I really don't. I've tried. I don't see it with Reece Nelson. At the start of the season, I was like, take your fullback on. Take him on, especially if you're playing on the right-hand side. You're right-footed. Take him on. Go on the outside of him. Whip the ball in. I don't see it. I really don't. If you're going to get him out on loan, sure, get him out on loan and replace him with somebody who's going to be more productive. But I just don't see it. With other young players, I've seen glimpses. I don't see it with Reece Nelson, and I've tried so hard, but I don't see it.
Can I,
Toby,
can I
you and I spoke.
Point?
No,
sorry,
go,
mate. Can I just
go,
make
go,
a quick
Scanny,
point?
go.
And I've only just seen it now. Arsenal have made a formal 3-year contract offer to Willian. So that's on Sky Sports News.
Can I just say,
God,
to play devil's advocate, and again, we haven't really spoken about Nelson being in the bottom three, and I hope we'll come around to it. But really, the conversation about Willian is the conversation about Nelson, because if Nelson had performed, then we wouldn't be talking about Willian, and he hasn't performed. He's negative 40-odd points. Can I just say this? When you look at basic business strategy, there's two things that you look at, right? You look at overall cash flow as in capital investment. So how much capital do we have to invest? And you look at offset investment. Now, offset investment is all about money that you don't have to pay today, but money that you may have to pay tomorrow. Willian may end up being money that we have to pay tomorrow because he's on a free. So for us to be able to get, or for Arteta to be able to get the money that he requires to bring in the players that he wants, he may still want to backfill the squad with players that may end up being on slightly higher wages, but he's hoping that they will give a larger return than the people he has in the squad currently. So when you look at Willian, I actually don't hate the transfer as long as Arsenal do the business that they need to do on top of it. If it was Willian and no one else, I would be worried about it. But if it is Willian, and because of Willian, it means that Arteta is able to then go and apply the funds from the kitty to other players as far as transfer funds, while paying no money up front for Willian and only paying the wages, which are going to be accrued at, say, 150,000 a week for 3 years. I don't hate that deal.
Yeah,
Have I just made sense, or have I just rambled garbage?
I don't know. I've said this in multiple chats with people. I think Willian is a good last signing, but he should not be our first signing. I personally preface this. I don't want him. But looking at it I think he makes us better next year. And I think we've all agreed to this. We're going to be shit next year. We know that next season is probably going to be a write-off season. But I don't think Arteta sees it that way. So I think he kind of wants to bring in guys that can improve him this season. And based on the guys we're linked with, we want like the Gabriels, the young, he's like 22. We want like younger guys, which I get, which is what I want. But we need guys to make us better next year. Do I necessarily agree with it? Maybe not, but that's what Arteta wants. And I don't think Willian is going to be a great signing, but hopefully he has a good season for us, and we can fucking just sell him to the MLS.
Toby, is Willian better than Nelson?
I don't think that's a fair analysis. Yeah. I think it's bullshit. I think Willian is in because player agents are involved, and he's Brazilian, and Edu's Brazilian, and all of this fucked up shit is happening, and we're going to get some sloppy seconds again from bitches that we can't get the first time. All right,
Toby, can I call in for just a second as an example? As an example, Celtic. Chelsea go for Hakim Ziyech and aiming to go for Kai Havertz, and we're talking about Willian. Look at the level that we're swimming in. Look at the pool that we're swimming in. We are actually, because he's free. You're telling me that there is not a player right now with the money that you can actually save on the contract that you're about to get Willian on. You're telling me that there is not a player out there right now that you can get with an upward trajectory that can improve us in the long term. We're going for another short-term 3-year deal.
What are you going to do? You're going to bring in another fucking Pepe, Manny? You're going to spend another 80 million on a guy who's got no Premier League experience? Or you're going to bring in a guy who's on zero transfer who will improve you, because no doubt he will improve us.
Yeah, how do you know this? Haven't we not had this conversation?
Because he's better than what we've got.
Max, have we not had this conversation before? We've had these discussions with people like this before. We had this discussion with Czech. We even had this discussion with the Denis Suarez of this world. We even
David Luiz. Like, how many fucking times do we need to do this?
How many Chelsea rejects do we have to go through before we start realizing we don't want the Chelsea
this
rejects?
Is the only signing that we made, it would be a terrible move. If this is a signing that allows us to use the working capital that we have to buy in players because there is no transfer fee.
Max, then we have done this before. We did it with Czech. We did it with Petr Cech, right? He was the only signer that came in, another Chelsea reject. Gallas, how good was he?
Yeah, Czech. When did we sign Czech? We signed Czech towards the end of the window. We didn't sign Czech right away.
Anyway,
we signed him
early,
Ryan.
We're going around in circles.
So we still had time.
Let Toby go. He's gonna shelve something. Let's go.
No, what we're doing is we're going around in circles, and I think at the crux of it, there's plenty of players that we've overpaid for who have come here and had a holiday. Now, what we need to do with our culture in the organization is to say you cannot come here and have a retirement fund. This isn't a superannuation fucking place. You know, now, is Willian better than Nelson? Maybe right now. Is Nelson's trajectory potentially higher than Willian can produce after coming here on the download of his career? Very much potentially. So what you're talking about is playing second fiddle and then backing our own culture rather than bringing someone in who's going to come and have a retirement package. And I reckon as a collective, regardless of whether it's good business or not, and we understand back-ended contracts and cash flow and, you know, having money left in the kitty to bring someone else in. We haven't even considered players like Emile Smith-Rowe or anything that can back up those particular positions. So we need to stop thinking about other people's and other big clubs' sloppy seconds, in my opinion.
We're looking
Sloppy
at
second, a
stopgap.
really dirty term.
We're looking at another stopgap. Willian is another stopgap, and he is because we've done this so many times. He's another
Like you
stopgap.
think
Hold
we're
on,
like you think
Stop
that we're
fucking
here.
interrupting.
Like you think
Stop
no, because you're
interrupting.
going off on some fucking ramble, right?
Because it's
like
because
we're
there's
somehow
evidence.
like the players we're going to buy
Because
now
there
are going
is
to make us
evidence of
top
this.
4. No,
But
I
there
know,
is
but I'm
evidence
saying
of us doing this before.
Let
right?
Arteta
We've
do
done
his
it.
fucking job with youth, not someone
exactly.
who's peaked.
the players that we
already on
buy
the download.
today are not the players that will take us to top 4.
Yeah, we don't know
Max,
that. You guys are
Max,
assuming.
here's the thing. We're assuming, Ryan, because we have done this before. And we've been in positions where we've gotten stopgaps and we've said, oh, this is a stopgap. We'll get somebody better in the future. And we haven't done that. So we're going
that's
around
a
and
whole
around in
nother
circles.
argument.
But Max,
That's a whole
we are
nother
going
argument because, like I
round
said
and
at the
round in
start, if you were
circles.
buying
We are
Willian,
making the same fucking mistakes. And when you make the same mistakes, you are doomed to repeat fucking history. We're making the same mistakes and we're going to get fucked over yet again.
Oh my god.
if you bring in Willian because you don't have the working capital to bring in someone to push Pepe, and you want to spend that working capital in central midfield and defence, then it is a good move because Willian, regardless of his wage, on no money down, makes us a better team. I guarantee you of that because strictly he is better than what Nelson has offered up. Saka has never wanted to play off the right. Aubameyang has never wanted to play off the right. Martinelli has never wanted to play off the right. So it is a hole in what we're trying to achieve. If the only fucking cunt who we bought in was Willian, then it would be a terrible move.
Fuck. Yeah.
So if that is a move now, and then we go and bring in 2 or 3 other people, then it is a good move.
I would like to book an appointment for October the 5th when, is it October 5th? October the 5th, when the transfer window closes and you've realized that we've made another cock-up.
No,
the
I'm saying
likelihood
preempt that.
Based on who we bring in, like I said, he should not be our first transfer. Don't get me wrong. And I don't even want him in, but I'm just saying this. He should be our first class.
I am so confident of this that either the next player that follows Willian will either be a youngster with an upward trajectory or nobody else. I guarantee this because this is who we are.
Our next guy is Coutinho, so I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, God.
Fuck Coutinho. If you fucking think Coutinho's coming into this cunt, you're as dumb as you are fat and American.
Being funny, I don't think he's coming.
Seriously. Anyway, so now that we've spoken none at all about Nelson, but I think the fact that we spoke about Willian as a replacement for Nelson is a reflection of Nelson. So our -1 point was Hector Bellerin. Our -2 point was Nelson.
Wait a minute. So that either David Luiz or Granit Xhaka is not in the minuses. That is
one of those two is not in the minuses, and there's a reason for that as well, Ryan. And our -3, a shittest cunt of the year, despite a massive part of the fan base believing that this guy turned out
here we
be
go.
the Messiah, turned out to be the guy who was going to be, I don't know, the guy to not be the guy. Granit Xhaka.
Yeah.
Ends up with a score of -93. So to put it into context, Scunny Mike, Hector Bellerin, a score of -34 overall. Reece Nelson, a score of 40 overall. Granit Xhaka, a score of -93.
Shock.
He's so fucking bad.
What was the squeaky voice?
I don't know. He's just so shit.
There's no shockways in the minuses. There really isn't. I can't think of a better player to get all them minuses, to be perfectly honest with you, other than Mustafi. But he hasn't played as many games. So, I can't. Where's he fucked off to again?
Doesn't matter. We can have this discussion.
Yeah, I'm just saying, where's he? He's fucked off again, hasn't he? So he asked a question.
No, it doesn't matter. Let's go on. So a lot of those negative points, like I was saying to Max before, I feel the cheap likes because he does a job, and he is a flawed player in a flawed system, in a flawed, lopsided team. So in defense of him, he is a problem. We've known he's a problem. We can do better, but he isn't the biggest problem.
But you're going to say,
in my opinion, I feel like he's an easy one to negative because of his flaws. Yeah, and I also feel like there's some games that he's quite suited to where he does a really good job. The low block, the game. Let me fucking finish. The Liverpool game,
Toby.
the City game, like those type of players where everything is in front of him and he can fall back into the defense and do quite a good job there. When a game like the Chelsea, the FA Cup final, he was exposed hugely because of his lack of mobility, and that goes to show the systemic nature, I guess, and the way that we either need to set up specifically to certain teams and the way they play, or bring in players to complement each other better. But for him, definitely, and don't forget, in my -3s, he was -1 out of the -2 and 3. So I'd like to say that I'm impartial, with my analysis, is that he's flawed because of his physical attributes and then the team around him. So we need to set up in a way that either suits him specifically, or we need to use him in games that he is suited to and use him more, for his team role.
Yeah, like you say, on the flip side of that as well, it's his negative style of play. I think the sideways and backwards passing, I think that's what gets him a lot of the negative points, in my opinion anyway, as well as the mistakes that he does make. It's his negative style of play. He don't push forward.
He hasn't made as many mistakes as what he has done in the past, Scunny. And yet he's
before lockdown, during the Emery, before Arteta. Yeah, before Arteta came in, he was making quite a lot of mistakes. He was playing that Emery style. So he was being probably, like Toby was saying, not played in the position that he is suited. Which, I can agree that. I can take that, definitely. But I think it's his negative style of play. It's his, with Ceballos so far after lockdown, if you're comparing the two, which you can do because they're both playing the similar position, Ceballos tries to push the ball forward. He tries to move it forward, where Xhaka still seems to want to play it backwards and sideways and tries to slow the game down, which is not what a lot of people want to see. You want to see pushing forward. You want to see Arsenal attacking. When you've got a front three as quick as what we have, that there's pace amongst our front three players. You've got Aubameyang, you've got Pepe, you've got Lacazette. They want the ball on that last man. They want to be pushing past that last man, and Xhaka doesn't do that. We have to go back to David Luiz to kick it forward. And I think that's what I was getting at in the sense of his negative style of play. We all know Xhaka can ping a ball forward. He's got a left foot on him. Why can't he do that in games recently?
Well, the interesting thing there is that during the Arsene Wenger time, it was always believed that Granit Xhaka provided the most amount of final third entry balls because he was played further forward. He was played as a guy who actually got in between the lines. Under Arteta, he's turned into this incredibly passive, incredibly deep, almost backing into the third centre back role.
I don't think he played advanced in Wenger. I just think the team was so advanced, and that's why we were so exposed on the counter.
Yeah. But regardless, the belief in the last 6 weeks of Arsenal fans in that he's the Messiah and not just a naughty little boy, it is absolute fucking garbage. I said it on Twitter and people came after me on Twitter, and I say, fucking come after me now, right? The man is a 7 out of 10 player who for the majority of the time he played at Arsenal, played at 5 out of 10. And since being put into a system under Arteta, which hid some of his deficiencies, he's been able to come back up to the level of 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10 player will get you to 6th, 7th, or 8th. And that's exactly where we fucking are.
The best place we finished with Xhaka on our team is 5th place. Do you guys like 5th place? I don't fucking like it.
You know what? Let's balance the argument. Let's do that. Let's balance the argument. He hasn't been as bad under Arteta as he's been over the years. People who are saying that he should have the armband, I suggest you go and shoot yourself right in the ball bag, bruv. Because he had the armband and he threw it on the floor. That's what he thinks of the damn armband thing. For me, I wasn't a Xhaka fan before that. I've never been a Xhaka fan, but once you throw the armband on the floor, there is no redemption for you. I don't care how well you play football. The problem that you have with Xhaka is when we saw it against Chelsea, when Pulisic and Mount were coming into the midfield, they were having a field day with him. It wasn't until we started to get on the ball and started to move it about that he came into the game.
We actually put Maitland-Niles into the midfield. We put Maitland-Niles into the 3 and then we dominated.
Just to give them, just to move that ball a bit quicker. And just like we said with Ceballos, he doesn't move quickly, but the ball moves quickly. With Xhaka, everything moves slowly. Everything moves slowly. He slows the game down. He slows the game down. His speed of thought is slow. When he's lost somebody, it's rash. He's got to pull somebody back. He's got to make that last-ditch tackle that, brings a foul. So he's still doing those little things that make him a problem. If you are, because he's not going anywhere, I've accepted that he's not going to go anywhere, but he should not be our number one in terms of that midfield. Definitely not. If you're going to have... It needs runners. It needs somebody who is, if you're going to have somebody who is slow, then the brain and the football needs to be on point. Especially with the midfield that you have.
That's my issue about guys who, there are guys who move quickly and the ball moves slowly. And there are guys who move slowly and the ball moves quickly. Granit Xhaka is fucking neither.
It's
like the ball moves slowly and the man moves slowly. Do you know what Granit Xhaka is, right? In the scheme of things, like let's take like an average young man's love making. So there are like 2 options for a young man who's making love. Option 1 is pound hard and pound fast. Right? It's all about like, let's just go as hard and as fast as we can. And usually
jackhammer.
Usually that's a man who's got a bit of timber behind him. It's a man who's got a bit of width, a bit of girth. And he's thinking, 2 minutes, I can get it done and I can get it done fast. But then you have another man who sits there and says, I don't want to come So I'm going to go with the rocking boat method. We've all attempted the rocking boat method, and I will tell you this now. Slow and steady never won a fucking race. The slow and steady puts too much fucking injection onto the general head of the cock, right? So you end up in this. Granite Xhaka is like attempting to slow and steady, but he is going to come fast, and he is going to come hard, and he is going to fucking leave with his pants, his wallet, and his drugs in his hand because he didn't fucking stay for long enough.
No,
Fact.
I agree with that. I agree with that analogy. As crazy as it is, I agree with that analogy. And if we are looking to move forward, if we are looking to build a team that is going to challenge, if you look at the current teams, and can I throw Chelsea in this? I'll throw Chelsea in this. If you are going to build a team that's going to challenge for the top, Granit Xhaka cannot be number one in that midfield, because at some point in the big games, he is going to get run past. He's going to make an error. As good as he can be, it will not be enough. Granit Xhaka wouldn't get into any of the top sides in the Premier League. Period. He wouldn't get in any of. He wouldn't get in any
He
of
wouldn't
those
make
sides.
the bench. What do you mean?
In some instances, he wouldn't make the bench. So why are we accepting? If some people think that we are destined for the top, but we're accepting Granit Xhaka, that doesn't correlate. Mate. That doesn't make any sense.
Does not work. Does not work at all, boys. But we would very quickly mention a couple of things. So the guys who just missed out of top 3 and bottom 3. And I thought it was really interesting that Bernd Leno missed out on top 3 players for us by 2 points overall, by 2 points positive overall. And I just wanted to kind of do a quick round table about Bernd Leno. Not only did Bernd Leno come very high in the points per game average. So for all of the games that Bernd Leno played, he ranked very, very high in average points per game. He also ranked incredibly high in positive points per game. And goalkeepers always end up ranking a little bit low in negative points per game, because when a goalkeeper misses something, we tend to barge them hard. To a little soliloquy here, I'm going to do a Toby Ware soliloquy, so please stand by me while I do this. But to all of the people who are putting out on Twitter that somehow Emi Martinez is a better keeper than Bernd Leno, can you please give yourselves a fucking uppercut? Not only has Emi Martinez played in front of a zero pressure crowd for the time that he's come in, which cannot be unspoken of. Not only has he played in front of a zero pressure crowd, but he has basically put on an amazing performance for a very, very short period of time under very little pressure. Bernd Leno across the entire season, throughout the Emery period, throughout the Ljungberg period, throughout the Arteta period, and before he did the knee injury, was on such a high level that we were doing podcasts talking about this guy being one of the top 3 keepers in the Premier League. To start talking about Emi Martinez as an option outside of pushing Leno to be harder is lunacy. And to all of you Arsenal fans talking about the possibility of selling Bernd Leno for £30 million, can I just say, what the fuck are you looking at? And what the fuck are you watching? Boys, please discuss.
So I've been having to bide my time for this, and I'm excited we're talking about this because I've been kind of laying low in the bushes, Rambo style, letting people talk about Martinez and kind of shutting Leno down. I'm like, yeah,
Rambo
all
style.
right,
You mean
cool.
pedo style?
God damn it, Scott. Okay, anyway, my point.
You walked into that one.
I did. Always strolling through the hooks. Martinez has been good. He's shut me up multiple games. I was under the impression when Leno got hurt, I wanted to see Matt Macy. I think Matt Macy is a better keeper than Martinez. I was quickly proved I'm an idiot. So yeah, he's proved me wrong. He's made me look like a fucking idiot. But Bert Leno is to me, Bernd Leno is top. I know I'm a little biased, my German bias, but Bernd Leno is easily to me top 3 in the Premier League. I could even make a case maybe top 5 in the world. I think we need to get him back to health, and I know he's recovering quickly, and he will show you why he is better than Emil Martinez. I think, and a big topic of discussion on multiple podcasts I've been on was, should we keep both goalkeepers for next season or try to sell one? I think if the right offer comes in, we need to get rid of Martinez. I think if a big team like a Sheffield United, who have a Man U loanee, they're gonna need a goalkeeper. Leeds United gonna need a goalkeeper. If we can get a right offer for Martinez, I think we should get rid of him. There's no need for
you
two
go
goalkeepers.
from having a valuation of a guy from being about £5 million to being £25 million. Toby, £5 million 2 months ago to £25 million now. You'd take the fucking £25 million now. Yes?
Yeah. I think in this case, sentiment doesn't come into it. He will forever be in our hearts. Like, what an amazing performance at the back end of the season after Leno goes down. But if we're talking dollars and cents or pounds and pence or euros and whatever the fuck they have that are not dollars, is that was one for you, Max, with some rambling there.
Thanks, champion.
I think we have to, if the right offer comes in and we can make something from effectively nothing when we're not a great selling club as it is, a la the fucking Willian deal, Max, then it would be a good bit of business if the right offer came in. If it didn't, then we have an excellent number 2.
Scunny, the stupidity of the Martinelli love versus the normality of the fact that Bernd Leno has played behind a disgustingly bad.
You mean Martinez?
Yeah, sorry, Martinez. I've drunk a lot of fucking rum.
We can tell.
And overproof rum. So just incidentally, right, I about 7 years ago,
you look like you're drinking fucking Swish.
Fucking Swish. Fucking dancing with a dog. Everyone watch Trailer Park Boys, at least season 1 to season 8. It is one of the greatest series that has ever been invented. For anyone who has ever smoked hash, done drugs, done mushrooms, done anything, it is genuinely probably the greatest show that has ever been invented. And I implore you to watch Trailer Park Boys. Regardless.
I miss hash, man. I remember rolling a fat fucking spliff while we were doing an audio podcast, man. It was great.
The love,
I was so damn.
The love in your eyes just then, Manny, just it made me want to partake. That was
one
genuine.
day, well into the future, when all this COVID stuff is done, we'll all unite at a pub in Luton and just.
Oh hell no! Luton, no, bro, please, no. You can do better than Luton, bro. Come on.
Don't you live in Luton, bro? I said Luton because I thought you lived in Luton.
No, stop bringing up Steve's comment.
These fucking no, this mouse got stuck down.
Just move it forward, you pack of cunts. Come on.
No, I live in. No, I'm not saying.
All right, wait. Yeah. Basically, guys, where we finished off was, the player of the season was Bukayo Saka, followed closely by Ceballos, followed by Aubameyang. Our negative players were Bellerin with a -1, Nelson with -2, Xhaka with a -3. Guys, I wanted to talk about points per game, right? So the points per game number, I decided not to make that our actual number because I didn't think that ended up making sense across the entire season. And for the negative numbers, the funny thing is the points per game followed almost exactly what we expected in the actual points. So the points per game ended up being Bellerin, Nelson, and Xhaka, which followed the exact numbers as far as what we had expected from the previous points. But there were 3 players who appeared in the positive points per game that we should probably talk about. So coming in at number 1, as our best player for the season as far as positive points per game was Kieran Tierney. Now, the erection for Kieran Tierney is large. So there are different types of erections as you grow up, right? There are three-quarter erections, there are full erections, and there are the occasional erection that you have that is very slightly longer than the normal erection. Now, Kieran Tierney is definitely that erection. Scunny, Toby, Ryan jump in on top of each other. Kieran Tierney, a future Arsenal captain, maybe one of the best players that we've signed in a long time. Incredibly good in the last month of football. Give it to me. Talk to me. Tell me how good he is.
Tell someone to talk so we don't talk over each
No,
other.
well, it's not my job to fucking do it. I was basically expecting someone to jump on top of someone.
All right.
else.
Well, he's everyone's boner because he's the antithesis of everything that we fucking had under Arsene Wenger forever.
Yes.
Fucking Adama No, who's the fucking shit Traore that we had? Not the good one. We had Gael Clichy. We had any number of terrible left backs who didn't like tackling or playing the rough stuff. This kid tucks his shirt in, does the old school stuff, respects the club, it just tackles hard, runs hard, puts himself about, has a good contribution from an attacking sense, crosses the ball well. There is no doubt that us fans love him because he's exactly what we want out of a player because he seems to give a fuck.
He's what we've been missing since Ashley Cole.
Cashley.
Yeah. Big Cole.
Yeah, Cashley.
Big Cole.
Yeah, the fact that he's old school as well in everything that he does, like tucking his shirt in and the shouting,
Pulling his socks
going
up.
to, pulling his socks up, going to Tesco's, he is everything that every player loves, every fan loves. He's everything there.
Yeah.
And that's why people are getting huge boners over it.
Yeah. And I think that's a good analogy with the Ashley Cole thing because as Arsenal fans, we hate Ashley Cole because we loved him so much because he was the best.
Oh, he had Ronaldo in his pocket. Manny Riz, we're talking about points per game. I know you just want to run away to either wank or drink or smoke some hash. But when we're talking about players per game, as in points per game, Kieran Tierney ends up top of the pops for us for points per game or points per performance. Is this guy a guy who we should be looking towards captain in the future, or is this just a guy who we should be saying? I'll tell you something now, Manny. I was very upset by that so many people wanted him to play at centre back because surely a man with 2 or 3 or 4 different variations of an amazing whipped cross should be playing further up the pitch.
I agree, right? And he knows what kind of ball to put in. It's not Kolasinac head down, run, and what the fuck? What the?
Scunny and I think Scunny has
I'm signed in as Fergus because I do it for guns.
I'm convinced Scunny is like the third man in with Fergus and his missus. So basically once a year. So basically this is what happens, right? Once a year, Fergus decides he wants a third man in. And he says to his missus it's going to and every year it's Scunny. Right? Like third man in.
Oh my God.
No, what it is because I do guns and yellow ribbons as well. I'm signed in with Fergus's account.
Scunny, you have stayed over there.
Fuck off.
You have. Scunny, would you climb?
You were saying shit like my wife will kick my ass. Mate, I'm not taking that.
What the fuck was I saying, man?
We're talking about Tierney, KT.
We're talking about Tierney. So, it's when we're talking about the variation of his crossing, it's, he looks up and he knows exactly what the cross is going to be. And, what's been understated as well, it's, his long ball wasn't that bad either. Just when he found Aubameyang for the penalty.
If Ozil played that ball, every Ozil fan in the world would be pulling their fucking
Both
cocker.
times. Oh, God.
Can I just make a point while you're talking about his crossing as well? His throwing.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's got a lot.
Unbelievable.
Roided up. He's got to roid it up. But what I like about it, right? If we talk about old school, he just gets on with it. It's what do you think about London? And he's like, yeah, I've never seen the city. All I do is train, go home, play my game, and I'm cool. And he's content with that. He's just rolled his socks up, hard work. Have you seen him get angry? That's a scary fucker when he gets angry. I think it was against Sheffield United, and he lost it with the ref, and it was like veins in his neck, bro. And it's like, oh, okay, like you're about a little crazy.
That's the Scottish in him, mate.
That's the Scottish in him, and he's a proper player in the sense that he can do both sides of the ball, which is what a fullback is. He's a defender first, and he's a good one. But when he gets forward, you know he's going to put that cross in. You know he's going to get that cutback. You just know it. You're confident with that. It's not a stinking Kolasinac. I'm surprised Kolasinac is not in any of the minuses, actually. How the fuck did that happen? But anyway, love Tierney. Future captain, bro. Is anyone going to say anything?
No,
would you like to tie this process up?
So other than that, the next most interesting person, obviously, Tina came in with positive 3 points for points per game. Saka came in with 1 point for points per game. Like I said, the 3 points were Bellerin, Nelson, Xhaka, obvious. But the only other person left for us who we have not spoken about really is Gabriel Martinelli. Now, Gabriel Martinelli, so for example, Tierney came in with an average of 2.94 positive points per game. Martinelli, 2.91, just a hair, just a Ryan's dick behind Tierney. What do we think?
Take off the comment.
Well, it's not fucking me, mate. There's like the fucking mouse has got some bullshit stuff.
You
with
fucking
it.
masturbate way too much to be having sticky fucking mouse, sticky key. What do you, come
Mate,
on.
I am under the most draconian lockdowns. You will not ask me about my masturbation habits. I have a pregnant
Leave
wife.
Pornhub
I have
alone.
one who's fucking worked. I've got a pregnant wife. Like, basically, I'm masturbating more than the average person masturbates at the moment.
Did you ever not masturbate more than anybody else?
Yeah, probably. I probably did, Mike. I probably did, mate. I think the average person probably considers masturbating twice a day, but only has time for once. I've attempted twice, and the other day I attempted a third time, and it was so unproductive that I realized that I was, in fact, incredibly old and beyond the point where 3 ejaculations are possible in a day anymore. Though I did try.
I shouldn't laugh because you shouldn't be encouraged. Wrap up the show. Wrap it up.
Well, we were attempting to talk about
We can talk amongst ourselves after.
No, but we were talking about Martinelli. The show doesn't matter. No one listens to us. So we were talking about Martinelli, guys. Is Martinelli into the future? Scunny, we'll go with you just to finish it off. He comes in with our positive 2 for points per game, just behind Tierney. Had Martinelli not have got injured, what was the trajectory for the man?
I think his trajectory was going to be a high one. Definitely. He was playing so well. I think he maybe only had one rough game, not really a bad game, just maybe a rough game. And I think that was against Burnley. Because I was there that game. I don't think really anybody played well that game. The best game I saw him play was Chelsea. And because I was there, that place was rocking. It was a mosh pit. That thing was amazing. That was amazing. And I just can't get enough of that. And I know it was only a draw, but that goal, Kante still on the floor. I can't get enough of that.
Yeah, that's one of a highlight of a shit season. That was.
Oh, 100%.
Regardless of whether they slipped and shot themselves in the foot. It was amazing.
Oh, 100%. And Kante, like I say, Kante's still on the floor from that. He's still trying to grab his leg.
Why he didn't play on Saturday in the FA Cup final? That's what I heard.
You
I
what, sorry?
think he had hamstring tightness or something like that. And
Kante. He was on the bench, I think.
No, I
wasn't fit.
hadn't he fallen out of favour with Lampard a little bit?
Lampard is shit, man.
he's not called Fat Frank for
I
nothing.
like Fat Frank. I loved Fat Frank for
He's-
England.
He's fucking overrated as a coach, bruv. He's overrated. He's overrated.
Time will tell.
Hmm.
Well,
All right, guys.
He's got a
Well,
budget
this-
behind him. That's it.
This
Yeah.
brings us to the end of this ArseBrose Rankcast, and not only to the end of this ArseBrose Rankcast, but this season of the ArseBrose Rankcast.
And not because of
So-
the ArseBros, just because of the season's finished.
So the five
had
of
enough.
us who are here on the film right now, you're going to hear a lot more of us next season, but in a very different format. So basically, Manny Riz, the Shadow, the Smudge, the Dark Man himself, the poet of the Jens Laymanness, he is going to continue to do hot topics. And if anyone has not listened to a hot topic, our hot topic podcasts are actually our most listened to, most downloaded podcasts. It's basically Manny, sometimes me, sometimes Scunny, sometimes the Pod Horde. It's basically about us ripping down topics to their bare bones. And Manny Riz will continue to do those. Scunny Mike has stood up, and Scunny Mike is going to be doing a preview show for us next season. So Scunny's going to be previewing all of the Premier League shows. Ryan, the $1 Million Man, the same old Arsenal YouTube fucking legend that he is going to be doing the shitty, dirty fucking cups in fucking Azerbaijan and shitty South
Belarus!
Bosnia and Belarus.
Ah!
Toby and I are going to go back to the original format and start bringing you an audio-only version of the ArseBros, which is going to be an ArseBros post-game review show. And then all of us together are going to come together and do the monthly review. It's going to continue on the +3s and -3s and all of those things. So really interesting times ahead. We look forward to bringing it to you next season. We really look forward to 6 weeks, 7 weeks off. And I can promise you this, ArseBros listeners, of the very few that you are, we will not do a transfer podcast.
No.
We will not do a rumors podcast. We will not release some fucking Nigerian fella's idea of what happened in something that happened. We will not be an Ethiopian fucking conduit for rumors. Nothing will happen from ArseBros until we're back next season. And when we are back next season, trust us, we'll be back. And to all my brothers in Arse, all the guys who have contributed over the course of the year, to Scunny, to Toby, to Manny, to Ryan, to the Bearded Gooner, to all of our friends, to Cannon Fodder TV, to the Mr. Arsenal podcast, all of our friends, all of our family, we say thank you very much. And this is us signing off for 2019-2020. Anyone want to add anything? Go for it.
No,
Anyone?
just shut the fuck up and then let's end the season.
I'm a broadcaster, Toby. Go fuck yourself. Act like you never put drugs in your ass. Piece of shit.